it's good that we know each other. It kind of like creates a quote unquote like safe space so that we can share some of the stories I feel like that we've had, and also I can like let my full self come through because I do feel sometimes traditional media has been a bit aggressive. Like we had the leaking of our fundraise,
They just like called you, right, and said they were gonna post it.
someone had told them about our fundraise and they were just gonna publish it. I don't know, it didn't feel like super friendly. It felt kind of, I don't know, kind of felt hurtful, especially because we work so hard as a team, like and then all of a sudden like someone's like, oh, we're gonna tell your story and you have nothing you can do about it. And so we had like 2 hours. We were like, someone scooped our story, like we're gonna scoop it right back.
Back, yeah.
And they got like, I don't know, they got kind of like mad about it. And it's like, hey, you do what we want, or we'll publish how we feel we should publish your story. And it's like, it did feel like a lot of threats. I don't know, which is why I love doing podcasts like this because just so direct and so raw. Traditional media, I think, is really struggling because actually like, I read it nowadays and I'm like, what is this garbage? Honestly, I'm like so into podcasts all of a sudden. I feel like it's like been a trend for so long and I'm just waking up to it, but it just feels so much more authentic and direct. It also feels like the journalistic integrity of everything is still real as well.
Yeah. No, I've thought about that a lot starting my own podcast too, because I think even when I think about like posting on social media when we do it versus our actual like podcast long form content, it's just not possible to tell the same story in like a headline or like a 30-second clip. And you start to feel like, oh, I need like a hook, I need like the grabbiest thing, which is good, but like you also want to be able to go in depth. And I've seen like I think sometimes like when I see articles about Faye, I'm like, oh, this is like an awesome article, but that's not like how I would have written it. Like they're centering a different part of the story than I would have centered. You know what I mean? Like they'll center like
Yeah.
GLP-1s, which is like
Yeah.
part of the narrative, but it's not like at the core of what we're doing. Just because that's like
Right.
what makes people click on it. So yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Ozempic is a headline. You put that in anything these days is like the H1 header of an article, and it becomes the number one. Like it just be like the clicks. It just attracts a ton of clicks because there's a lot of people right now searching for things like Ozempic, and sure, that's a part of our story and how we fit into this broader like challenge that America has. But for some reason, um, that's what makes it into the header. Yeah, I think you get this like manufactured storyline. And again, I'm not like there's a time and a place for traditional media, but I think right now our story is so new and we're so like we're forming. That's why when you were doing this podcast, I'm like, I can't wait to be invited. Like I'm like waiting to be invited. It's an honor to be on and talk about it because also I think it's rare where the the person interviewing is also working at the same company as the person being interviewed. So we have a healthy disclaimer there. I feel like right, we're gonna do like a healthy disclaimer about that for everyone, so that
Yeah. Uh,
okay, cool,
I'll do a quick
cool.
intro. So today I'm talking to Sammy Faycurry. He is the CEO and founder of Fay, which is a business in a box software for dietitians, and it's also a marketplace where me and you can find a dietitian covered by our health insurance. They just raised a $50 million Series B and are now valued at $500 million. Sammy and I first met when we met for coffee about a year ago, and he told me about his vision for Fay. I was so excited by it that I joined, and I've been on the operations team there for a year now. So, very excited for this full circle moment to have Sammy on the podcast. And thank you for joining me today.
Oh my God, I am so excited.
Me too. I wanted to start by asking you about your journey and why you started the company.
I am a little bit shocked to be here in this situation because it does feel a little surreal. I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I've always been very entrepreneurial, wanting to start a company. And so I think there's a lot of like, I don't know, like I was gonna be like fake ass founder stories that I hear all the time. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, I just stumbled into this, but I've always wanted to start a company. I think honestly, starting a company or being entrepreneurial is very much like in your blood somehow, or it's in your DNA. And And so for myself, my dad, was an entrepreneur, worked primarily in like food industry, restaurants, construction. I always went to work with him. Like I never had, I think growing up, we never got to throw the baseball in the backyard. I don't know anything about sports like at all whatsoever. And so spending time with him was, hey, you're gonna wake up at 5 a.m. You're gonna go pick up produce in Chicago on the in the West Loop before it was some like yuppie central over there. It was just like a bunch of warehouses for grocery stores would go collect like produce from there, and it felt like super ragtag, right? And so anyway, I just like, feel like that is sort of entrepreneurially. I've always wanted to start a company and really admired, what my dad was doing, and was working on like so many horrible ideas constantly. So after I graduated from Northwestern, I went into consulting, and then was always tinkering around with
Did
like
you have
ideas
any
and concepts.
failed pursuits?
Oh my God, so many, like so many horrible ideas and businesses that if you look back at it, it's like, oh God, what the was I doing? There was one in particular that was just, I felt horrible. And I know I'm connected with someone on LinkedIn that I worked with this on, but he probably agrees, right? It was like called Jargon, and it was a Chrome extension that like sat like a Grammarly-esque Chrome extension that would follow you along and help you decipher like acronyms and jargon. It was like the most like gross, like plastic thing someone in consulting would try to start as a company. So there's like a ton of just horrible business ideas like that I was tinkering around with. And then I got into HBS for business school, and I got waitlisted at HBS for business school. And so I had just like so much time to continue to tinker around. I was helping my mom and my sister, who are both dietitians, helping them with their private practice, helping them get it off the ground. Um, and so they're registered dietitians, and they had like, you know, not really worked with insurance that much. And they just honestly like had a lot of challenges managing just the day-to-day operations of a business and a private practice. And so I'm the oldest of five, so I have four younger sisters. It's crazy. I always say I grew up in a sorority house. My sisters ended up being like super like girly girly. They're all like I got like no tomboy sister.
I know you
And
really
so
don't have a tomboy sister.
it's
It's a
like
green
you
flag, a guy with a bunch of sisters. It's a good thing.
and people always wonder like how do you have taste? I'm like that's how I was forced to have taste.
It's
I'm not allowed
funny.
to leave the house without taste. You've met them too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I've spent the most amount of time with Serena. They're really nice.
Yeah, Serena's like they all have their own. They're all super girly girl, feminine women, um, but they all have like I don't know their like own obviously like their own personalities. They're not all the same. But anyway, I find myself helping my family a lot, and was helping my mom and my sister, and all of a sudden I just fell in love with the space, which sounds so gross and cheesy, but I'll be very sober and say I was really skeptical about the food and nutrition space. I didn't understand like why would anyone actually meet with my mom and my sister? I mean, I was like so negative. I was like, why not just Google it? Why like does insurance even cover this? Really, why do you need to talk to someone about food and nutrition? There's very few dietitians as well.
There's like 100,000 in the US and like 2,000 of them are already on our platform.
True. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like a testament to the fact that like no one was building in the space and people were overlooking it for the many of the reasons that I think I was also really skeptical about the space. Like also don't Americans just want to, you know, I don't know, like here I am, like I have a Celsius, literally like I'm like the founder and CEO of a food and nutrition company. And here I am, like it's just like poisoning my body. Like this is just like, this is America, right? Like we grind. I think we like do a lot of harm to our bodies in different ways. Um, but then I was helping my mom and my sister. I was like, oh my gosh, like coverage for insurance is amazing. Celebrities like Kim Kardashian have a dietitian and a personal nutritionist, but they pay so much money for it. Everyone in America can have it for a really, really low cost. And then I'm also falling in love with clients. So clients would literally call my mom's practice, and I was her secretary and her like office manager. I was like calling and scheduling people like manually with a pen and a paper. But the best, craziest thing was actually hearing people say, "Oh my gosh, your mom changed my life. Where can I write a testimonial to share about like how much my life has been changed?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's a real opportunity here. There's a market where everyone has been overlooking it for so long. And there's a bunch of like myths, I think, that existed in the market. You can't discover it until you're like on the ground realizing the beauty of it, which I think a lot of people, Anika, like from our background, it's hard for them to do, right? They go to these really prestigious schools, they have these really prestigious jobs, and they sit in a bit of like an ivory tower, and they're not like connecting with real people's problems that they have every day.
No, and it's like a huge market size, right? Because I actually remember this from my first conversation I ever had with you, where you were like, it's one in two people that have a chronic condition. And that's not even like people that would benefit with a dietitian. That's like the market size of the core group of people that need a dietitian is like one in two
Totally.
Americans, which is pretty crazy.
And it's only getting worse too. I mean, we kind of are in this, it's the parable of the boiling frog. Like it's just the problem keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And we keep sweeping it under the rug. And we're just literally at this point where, I mean, even I have high cholesterol. Like I have high cholesterol and I really struggle to work on it. Right. But I also think like people kind of kept trying to solve the problem in really like dumb ways. Like there's a like cemetery full of shit companies that like have this sort of like idealistic image of what someone will do, right? They try to like, here's a medically tailored meal delivered to your home. Like no one wants a medically tailored meal. Like that's disgusting. Like people want to live, right? I love the way they were going about it where these dietitians have been overlooked for so long. I think of them as like, so passionate and kind of like this like army that we're building to solve this problem in a very, I think, a human-centered way, but then also overlaying on it some best-in-class like vertical AI workflow empowerment that, I mean, no one's even building in healthcare, but let alone building for dietitians who have been like so ignored. So all of a sudden, we're like attacking this industry and like not even building just software for them in a way that no one's ever built for them before, but building cutting edge technology. Harvey AI has done, I think like wonders for the legal space. We're basically taking the same bazooka to the dietitian world, and there's a lot of reasons why that has been like really cool and impactful. But sorry, I don't know how we ended up on that.
I was gonna ask you, so
Yeah,
basically you see this problem with your mom and your sister, but you don't
yeah.
come from a technical background. So then how did you like start creating the company? You were using like low code, no code tools, right? And just like stitching
Yeah.
things together.
In the early days before I was blessed to meet Mark, who has built like obviously a world-class engineering team, when I was helping my mom and my sister with their private practice, I stumbled across low code, no code through MakerPad, which I think just got acquired by Zapier. Even like now that world actually has completely taken off, right? You have like Replit and Cursor, which has just I think empowered non-engineer, non-magical people to have a little bit of magic. And I get asked to angel invest a lot, and like there are a lot of people who are like, hey, I need to go raise a seed round, $5 million seed round to like hire people to and build engineering, and you can't. I'm like bullshit, like absolute horseshit. I want to say it's rare that you need to go raise a round before actually building a product. But even if I say that, people will be like, I'm the rare, 1% that's my bucket. So that's why I'm going to go raise a seed round. So honestly, there's kind of like no excuse these days for you not to be able to build a product, especially if it's a software product, build something V1, get it up and running, show that you can solve a problem and add value. And
Yeah, and
so, yeah,
I feel like one of Faye's strengths from the very beginning was that it found product market fit really early. Because my understanding is that venture wasn't actually like super keen to fund it in the beginning when it was like a category that didn't exist, right?
we were kind of like secretly building Faye, like on the DL because we noticed it was really self-sustaining. We were solving a problem, and so we were bootstrapping it. Bootstrapped it to half a million in ARR. I was like so angry at Harvard Business School at that time for waitlisting me. I was like, you got to be kidding me! I got waitlisted, and then it was actually the best thing that they ever did because in that time, we found product market fit. I didn't go to like Croatian Yacht Week, with my HBS friends, and instead was just building Faye. And people would be like, "Oh, like what are you working on?" I was like, so smug. I was like, I thought I had like I was like, I've got the best secret in the world. Like it's this like dietitian marketplace, and everyone's like, "Oh, like yeah, like gross." Honestly, like that's like the sexy. That's like the your like sexy, cool, fun startup.
This didn't exist until like Fay and a couple other companies did it, right? Like when you first went to VCs, like from what I remember when you first went to VCs,
Yeah.
they didn't even believe that insurance would pay you to for like a normal person to go see a dietitian.
We really did not want to raise VC money because one, I don't think everyone should raise VC money. Two, the business is growing beautifully. It was a very like perfect situation, right? We didn't have anyone, any other cooks in the kitchen swaying us one way or the other. And that allowed us to like build stronger and stronger product market fit. As we were building, we saw like two or three other people in the market trying to build in the space alongside us. And then one of them went out to go fundraise and raise a seed round. And we were like, all right, kind of like playtime's over. That was actually the catalyst for raising. We tried avoiding it for as long as possible, which I think many people should do. And then we looked at it and we said, okay, well, what happens if we don't raise? What happens if we continue to build the business as it is? It started to look more and more like a, winner take all or winner take most market. At the end of the day, we did need capital to accelerate forward. I think also it's a red flag if folks are like, oh, I'm creating an industry, I'm creating a category, like I need capital. Like also really, really big red flag because the category creators do not come across very often. It's a once in a lifetime situation, but it really like whether we liked it or not was our situation.
Well, there were laws that
Yeah,
changed, right? Like there was like an actual catalyst for it. Like the laws during COVID around like telehealth and what you could bill changed.
exactly. Yeah, previously you couldn't get reimbursed for dietitians in a virtual environment. It had to be in person. And then that changed in COVID. But then also like just the sense of urgency for dietitians also began with the regulatory environment that you were talking about. You all of a sudden noticed that dietitians became extremely important in the space for many other reasons, and so we just kept. Obviously, we're busting our ass. We're working so hard. Like I don't know a team that works harder than we do. We do not sleep. Like we work on weekends. Like we are. I'm here having a Celsius, like sacrificing my body. We kept getting lucky, 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 and we paired that with a ton of hard work. And I think that's kind of how we end up in the situation where we've got a complete rocket ship. And now, Anika, I felt like even in our call, because we've grown so much and evolved since our initial meeting in coffee in our original San Francisco clubhouse. Like now it's funny when we get on calls, people are like, oh my gosh, like you're a Series B, fastest growing company in the health and wellness space. Why did no one think of this before? Now, like that's the question. Whereas before it used to be, oh,
Why would you
like,
do this? No, it's
right.
actually funny because I don't know if you remember this, but in our initial conversation, I like walked in and the recruiter had told me like make sure you ask good questions and I was like ready to sell myself to you and you were like why do you want to work here? Like why would you work for this company that's like in stealth? We just have a website and now it's like a completely different story. So it's like crazy to see going from like point A to literally series B.
What
Really.
were you thinking? What were you thinking? Well, like honestly though, I mean, I'm looking
You
back at
know,
it. We didn't have
I
a
actually
LinkedIn. We didn't have a
I
LinkedIn
know, I know.
either.
I thought that was so sketchy. I'm not gonna lie. I tried to find the LinkedIn and I was like, and then I also I feel like the funny thing about me is I I don't know if you even know this, but I told the recruiter that was helping me look into like jobs and stuff, and I was like, I
Yeah.
want something like later stage at a startup, and I don't want healthcare. That's what I said, and he was like, okay, well I have an early stage healthcare company for you, and you should just go talk to the founder. And I was like, okay, yeah, like why wouldn't I go talk to the founder? And then I just like fell in love with the problem because I think to me it made so much
Yeah.
sense. Like if the US is spending 4.5 trillion dollars on healthcare, which is a fun fact I
Yeah.
learned while researching for this podcast, like we're clearly doing something wrong. And I think like it was also just like my background, I think. Like my parents are super passionate about nutrition. I grew up with a lot of like allergies and nutrition related problems. And I think for
Yeah.
me, like I can't get excited about an early stage startup unless I feel the problem myself. And like with
Yeah.
something like B2B SaaS, like when I worked in consulting, I enjoyed doing B2B SaaS projects and like I loved it. But like I'm not going to sit there
Yeah.
and be like, that's a problem I understand because I'm not like a company and I don't like have that pain point, you know? So I feel like that's part of
Yeah.
it. Like I see the 10x of vision and and I know you do too. I wanted to ask you about that because like
Yeah.
you kind of mentioned it, but there's not that many digital health companies that have had like a huge exit or IPO'd and there's kind of like
Yeah.
been somewhat of a ceiling. And do you see that like vision for Faye and how do you think the company would get there?
I will say as we grow and we evolve, like the path for us was always super clear and it was super rare. Because we do sit at this intersection between, health, wellness, food. I think digital health is really tough. It's really tough, and I'll tell you why I think it's tough. I think it does feel like the insurance companies are monopolistic, profit crushing entities. And it's really hard to like build any kind of business in an industry that has, I will say, like mafia style tactics, right? Like we'll negotiate a contract with an insurance company only to find that we were like, bamboozled on a term. Like it's wild. And so it's like as we grow and we become larger, it's obvious like, and like honestly, I'm even afraid to say this, right? Because insurance companies should be our biggest partners. And they are in a lot of ways, but at the same time, we also kind of feel like a little abused, right, by the system. And I know that that feeling is even more felt by providers who get crushed between, you know, their clients and their patients, the people that they're caring for, and the system that's supposed to pay them. So in a way, it feels like a lot of like aggressive like labor abuse. I know that sounds dramatic, but I'm gonna say it. Like it just feels like labor abuse. And the United Healthcare CEO literally got shot. This is like this horrible thing that happened, and people were like cheering.
They
And
were literally
that
celebrating. Every social media comment and post was like so happy.
I was just like, whoa, are we here? Like, is this where we're at? Because I think some, my friends were split on it 50-50. You talk to some of them. I mean, this is like where we're at, right? Like people are so fed up that they're cheering this on. And then other people are like, how, I mean, this is just like so embarrassing that we're here. Like that's so shameful. Like people should feel so ashamed of their reactions, and they should feel horrible. And then I kind of felt like, my reaction was, we're not going to get anywhere if people are not like seeking truth. Like it isn't so important to understand like why were people reacting that way, right? So like think about it as a third person omniscient, right? Like why did people react that way? Why did people have that reaction? Um, I think it's just like so weird to be dismissive of their reaction because we're never going to get anywhere if we're not solving and understanding like why did people react. We're in a situation where this is how people feel about their insurance. The longer we pretend that that is uh
I get what
the
you're saying.
long
Like,
yeah,
there's like an issue present, and for some people, it felt like self-defense, right? Because these insurance companies are indirectly leading to so many deaths that, like,
right.
in a way, it's self-defense. Which, like, me and you, like, obviously, like, we don't want to see anyone die, whether it's like at the hands of an insurance company or like an
Yeah.
assassination. But it's like it
Yeah.
does make sense, and I actually like one of the things I do at Faye is sometimes I'll like look at our social media comments and I just see like person after person be like, I don't even believe that my insurance will cover a dietitian because they aren't covering this like life-saving surgery I need. We lack control in certain ways where
Yeah.
if you're a normal company and you charge someone $50, you get the charge immediately. And if their card declines, like the purchase never goes through, right? But for us, it's
Right.
like this loop of waiting for an insurance company. And like if they give you $40 instead of 50, like what are you going to do? Who do you call? Like who do you track down?
Totally. And I mean, you've experienced as well. Like we're on the hold with insurance companies. No one will, reply to our emails. And then at the same time, a client is like, I just got to know, a bill from my insurance company that says I owe $300, but that's an EOB. And,
This
there's a
is
lot of
actually
like,
a crazy thing that I think we should
yeah,
mention for people that aren't
yeah,
familiar. I didn't realize this until I joined Faye, but like if I have an appointment with a dietitian, my insurance company sends me a bill that literally says I owe $350 when I actually don't owe any money. Like there's no way no one's changing this or that this is like a real way people are communicating.
even I have made that mistake. Like I fell a long time ago, and I was like out on a run. I ended up falling and like breaking my rib, and an ambulance had to come and pick me up and take me to the hospital. And then I ended up getting what I thought looked like a bill, right? But it wasn't. But it like looked like a bill. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I got I'm having to pay, $15,000 for an ambulance ride. Like this is bullshit. And, you know, ambulance company is making so much money from me. Uh, and it took me so much time to understand like that was just like a letter that I got from my insurance company that like was super unclear, that made it look like a bill but was not, but also scared me from, ever calling an ambulance ever again, right?
Which is really sad.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like here
No,
I
it
am, a
is
super savvy
jarring.
person. How did I fall for that?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I also want to talk about like going beyond insurance companies and with the Series B, when you talk about like AI, I know that's like such a big term. Where is that being
Yeah.
implemented in the company? Is it like what the employees are doing? Is it going to be customer facing?
Yeah, so I mean, right now a lot of the AI that we've deployed has been because we deeply understand the workflow of the dietitian. And so a lot of that today exists really like in the dietitian's like experience and helping to accelerate their capabilities. So, we talked about how we feel like there's a lot of labor abuse happening in the market for healthcare, where a lot of providers, especially dietitians, they struggle to get paid, but by insurance companies. And then, they have clients as well who feel like all the care they should be paid by their insurance company. And so what's happening is we could go right with our like picket, well, I don't know, what do they call them? Like
Like,
forks and picket what is it called?
I know what you're talking. I think it's like
Like,
picketing, like picketing.
yeah, yeah, like we go picketing, and which we need some of that. We need the picketing, but at the same time, we also don't have the time. We don't have time for that. And I think the beauty about a startup company is to say to yourself, we have technology, and now we have AI, and this is a huge paradigm shift. And so we could kind of like ease the burden, right, for care providers, empower them, to do what, 6 hours worth of work, in under 2 hours.
So like
That wasn't, yeah,
how are you no, I just sorry, I want to ask
no,
you like
yeah,
how are you able to do that? Like how could you take 6 hours of a dietitian? And I don't know like how much you're able to talk about versus not. Like
yeah. This
what
is a tell-all, Anika. This is a tell-all. It's a tell-all.
like what would the workflow be and how can AI actually help?
I'll give you an example. Like you go see a dietitian, and you may not realize that the dietitian spent an hour studying your background and your information and your intake forms, that they spent an hour and a half, even 2 hours sometimes, putting together a meal plan for you. With AI, I think there's just this magical moment that is happening because that you have these moments where you could take something that is largely like feels like labor abuse, right? And at a mass scale, and lessen that labor burden. And it's just this beautiful moment that I think only has just started to unlock itself. Like in every single vertical in healthcare, it's about to have its sort of like come to Jesus moment now with the AI paradigm shift.
And to give like an idea of where the healthcare
Yeah.
industry is in terms of technological innovation, like Faye is like at the cutting edge of AI. Like we're working on top of like Anthropic's models, OpenAI's models.
Yeah.
But like the healthcare industry, like 3 months ago, I had to fax something because I was trying to figure something out on the operations team. And I was like calling
Yeah.
people, trying to find a way around it. And eventually I just went to my UPS and I faxed it. And the UPS guy was like, just to let you know, this will be like $20. Like, are you sure you want to like pay to fax this one sheet of paper? And I was like, It's fine. I'm expensing this, but like, there's nothing I can do."
Yeah.
And it's just like crazy that that's still where we're at.
I mean, yeah, I think back like, there were the times when my mom and my sister were working alone in their private practice, and they were just not realizing it until I put the numbers for them, right? I'm like, you know, here you are getting, $50 for an appointment, or you're getting, $80 for this appointment. But really, like, let me look at all the work that you were doing. Look at all your costs. The way that this is working out traditionally, like you're actually almost paying the insurance company, or you're paying your clients to work for them, right? You're
Yeah.
not you're not
I know.
making. a livable wage.
And I'd say a lot of dietitians, and not all of them, obviously, it's like person by person, but I think a lot of them aren't driven by profit. Like it's not a profession a lot of people go
Totally.
into to be like counting how many dollars they're making off of patients, which makes them
Yeah.
more likely to prioritize patient care. And if it's like 2 hours of thinking about this patient's plan makes the patient have better outcomes, they will do
Yeah.
it. And the patients,
Yeah.
this is something I didn't know until I joined. The patients have amazing outcomes. Like we've basically completely validated. I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about that too,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we've like completely validated this care approach.
No, it's I do want to talk about that a little bit because I when we talk about like labor abuse with healthcare providers in the market, like but this is not just for dietitians. My partner, she's a OBGYN. And I mean, I see the work that she does, and I'm just like, I cannot believe. Like, no, I mean, people think, like, oh, doctors, oh my God, they make so much. I mean, it is really abusive. It's across all of healthcare, and they are super passionate. And that to me is actually what riles me up is I felt like people were taking advantage of my mom and my sister and other healthcare providers like them and get them to do work and deliver work at a cost that is just like inhumane. Like I'm gonna flat out say that it's completely inhumane, especially in the US, right? Like we're literally in the United States of America and we're basically deploying abusive labor tactics to get healthcare providers to do work at an unsustainable cost. And we wonder why like no one wants to become doctors, no one wants to become healthcare providers anymore. It's because we've
I know.
completely just shattered like life for them. And it's disgusting, honestly.
I mean, yeah, there's like a huge shortage of doctors, right? And there's like all these incentives we have to create to make sure doctors reach like rural areas of the country that no one wants to go there. And it's a growing problem. And I feel like with the rise of like people being more likely to join like a tech company or do something like that, we have to keep it as an attractive profession because it's literally vital to people like living or dying. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. I also
But
want to,
sorry, you want to talk about that? You want to talk about the outcomes? I feel like
yeah,
I
no,
didn't want to
I was just
I
gonna
just went
ask
on this
you.
tangent. Yeah.
No, no, no. So this is a question I wanted to ask you because a lot of my friends ask me this. They'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, does like seeing a dietitian actually work? Like, couldn't I just like figure it out on my own?" And I honestly kind of thought that in the beginning too. And then I started seeing my dietitian, and
Yeah.
for me, it kind of feels like seeing my piano teacher when I was little, and I'm like scared to go without practicing. I'm scared to like not have recorded my food because that's like something her and I have decided I'm gonna do. Obviously,
Yeah.
everyone doesn't need to do that, but we have started to validate it across like our patients, and it works really
Yeah.
well.
I mean, we're continuing to step up the bar in terms of outcome validation and research. And I think one of the cool things that we've done is we've worked with the Validation Institute and other like third parties to validate outcomes. A lot of what you see in the market is patient reported outcomes and PROs, which is great and fine and dandy, but because of AI, we're actually able to decipher real like blood work data and outcomes. And so I think the body of work that we've already published showing like the cost savings for food and nutrition, no one's ever done that before. Like everyone knows like the impact that like good food and nutrition and lifestyle has on one's life, but we are just stepping up the game, not just from validating the outcomes, but also the cost savings for it, and stepping up the bar in terms of data quality, right? Like you look at what folks have in the industry around Omada, around Verta, even some of these other players in the market, not to name names, but there's a lot of like footnoting. There's a lot of challenges around proving efficacy, right? That's always going to be the challenge in healthcare. I can think of a future where as we continue to grow and expand, like we will find foods that have clinical grade outcomes, like medication level impact on people's healthcare. And we might start to discover as a company more than anyone, like uh, what a I had a custard apple in Kerala the other day. I've never had a custard apple before. And I could imagine a future where we find uh, like a custard apple or nutmeg might have the clinical strength of metformin. Like I know that's a crazy future, but I think that we might be the first company to ever uncover that. And I will say, if we do things right, I'm scared. Like I think like like big pharma might have a hit on us. Like I'm like scared for my life. Like if we start to uncover like the secrets of the universe, um,
So do you
in
think
a
there's a
way,
future, like do you think there's a future where Blue Cross Blue Shield would would cover my dietitian like prescribing me a healthy whole foods meal? Because the alternative
totally
would be that and so like that could be something that's built in the future. And from what I understand,
already happening,
Sophie is going to
right?
do it in the future.
We're already talking about it. I think there is this cultural moment right now. And I think insurance companies have a lot of opportunity to flip the script, change the story, and show how they can come to bat for Americans. And I think one of the bright spots that I've seen has been having conversations where, you know, Elevance will say, yeah, we're already put aside X billions of dollars for food spend. We're just looking for the partners to do it with because if we give everyone $100 gift card to Walmart, how do we know they're not going to go buy cigarettes? And then on the other flip side of that is there's okay, we say only healthy foods. You can't buy an Oreo. Um, but like, why do we got to be weirdos about an Oreo? Like that actually, like we have people who lose 15 pounds and they have an Oreo because they do it in moderation and they're like really mindful about their food and their approach. So they have the capital and they're struggling to find the right partners to deploy that capital. And so we will 110% be part, like I think like be the catalyst that changes the script, and we will 100% are already lining up features for people to have funds to actually spend on food, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I also wanted to pivot a little bit and ask you about being
Yeah.
a founder and your
Yeah.
philosophy around being a founder. I know there's like all this literature recently, everyone's been reading like founder mode and other articles. And so I wanted to ask you like what camp you fall into and how
Yeah.
you like develop that philosophy.
This is a great question. So hot take, like I try to stay away from all that. I try to stay away from a lot of the literature around company building and instead try to solve problems like what I hear is called first principles thinking, like take the problem and solve like the specific problem. And then retroactively we learn about I hear about things like peripherally. People will be like, I know there's some things that Anika we do as a company where then, retroactively I'll be talking to other founders and CEOs and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's founder mode. I'm like, oh, what's that? Um, and so I don't like, I think we build a certain way and then retroactively find out that that's actually like a badass approach and like
And there's
very,
like a name for it and there's like articles around it. Yeah. No, that totally makes sense.
yeah.
Do you, and then because I know you have like a bunch of philosophies around operations and like operational
Hmm.
excellence or doing
Yeah.
things that don't scale. So I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you like what your perspective is on operations.
Everyone at the company is either operations or engineering,
Yeah.
right? We don't, and now we have design, we have design and pay for the first time, but there's no, SVP of, strategy in operations or whatever. What's funny is like, yes, but actually for our revenue, um, we don't have nearly enough people, uh, on paper, right? People would look at us and be
Yeah.
like, how are you doing $2 or $3 million per head count? Um, well, it's because we're just like super principled in our approach. Like we have certain sayings like operational discipline, product discipline, that we like live and die by. But Annika, like there's so many nuggets of beauty. I'm curious, like which is the one that you want to dive into?
I feel like you emphasize operational excellence a lot. Like I know you once
Yeah.
created a fake dietitian to check in on the operational excellence of your first employee.
There's this experience of going 0 to 1, right? And 0 to 1 takes a really small team of people, one, two, or three people, going from strategy to execution and iterating rapidly. In the early days, like our sales cycle, right? And like how we would engage a dietitian, and how we would describe to them the opportunity. We tried like describing it as an employment opportunity. That didn't go super well. And then we changed it more being about empowerment and allowing providers to start their own private practice.
And I
And
just want to
yeah,
inject one thing here, which is that like
yeah,
our providers, it's a partnership because I know like some
yeah,
other people on the market, it's like an employee relationship, but our
yeah,
providers, it's like we let them run their private practice however they want to.
totally. And we're kind of like trying to unravel healthcare in that way because a lot of like big companies that are forming and kind of like building monopolies. And so our whole philosophy is about like how do we empower these providers? I was looking at my mom and my sister, right? They were dietitians. They wanted to have their own private practice. They wanted flexibility in their schedule. And so there are all of these like little things that when you're finding product market fit are super, super important. But then when you hire new people and you bring them on the team, um, you want to give them a playbook and you want that playbook to be very, very tight and very strong. When we bring folks on, we want to make sure that, things are very tightly defined because if things start to stray from like like the process and the values that we initially developed, I guess, then we run the risk of the whole company like falling apart. And so after onboarding, like, we'd onboard like the first few people, right, to the company. And the way that I would check if things were running smoothly was I would like create a fake account, right, and like actually apply and go through it like
As a
as the found
dietitian.
as a dietitian. I literally went to extreme lengths where I like had a thing that like changed my image and made me look like a completely different person. I had a voice changer so that I would like go through the sales call and like ask all the right questions, like try to like break the system. That
Did
was
it
me.
work? Alex passed from what I heard.
Oh my God, with flying colors. I mean, we've done an amazing job with the people that we've brought on the team. And every now and then I will poke around. We had for a long time, we had a customer support line where you could text, with our support function. And, you know,
Half those texts
I'd
are you.
be,
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, it'd be like a Saturday and, I have no life. So what am I going to do? And of course, like pressure test the team, Saturday evening, you know, by the way, it's amazing. Like we'd have folks like on a Saturday evening, like replying to the customer support line in the early days. And just pressure test the hell out of it. Throw like the hardest questions, see if I could throw people off their game. I learned this is a thing, Anika. It's like called dog fooding, they say in the industry. Like always be dog fooding our product, like always be, have you heard of dog fooding?
Yeah, because I feel like now
Yeah.
we all do it too. Like I see a dietitian, I go in the app, which we have a Fay app now. You should download if you haven't yet. Um,
Yeah.
and like keep my like journal streaks because you notice so many things about the product by doing it. Like I feel like I've gotten so many ideas from just using it myself.
Totally. And so many people don't. And it's part of our onboarding, right? Like we have an onboarding checklist, and step number one is like book your appointment with your dietitian ASAP, and then report to the team like your learnings. I don't know, like think to always keep us close to the voice of the customer, especially as we scale now. I'll be vulnerable. Like that is always my fear. All of a sudden now I've got things on my desk that pull me away from like the voice of the customer, that pull me away from the voice of like the people that matter the most, which is, it's patients, providers, and payers. And the busier we get, it feels it's harder and harder to do that. I'll also myself pop in randomly on a Saturday and Sunday and like take over the provider support inbox and just do a few questions myself to keep myself fresh on like what is what are the
What
latest
are their
challenges? Like
pain
what
points? Yeah. And when
yeah.
you think about like scaling and being able to stay close to everything, do you think it'll be difficult to keep the bar of talent where you've kept it?
I mean, Annika, you're just like the craziest thing is the business keeps growing so like phenomenally because there is just this massive unmet need. And then there continues to be challenges to like lower the bar for talent. Um, and there's a lot of temptations to do that, right? Because you do start needing, we really need um, people, right? And uh, it starts to become really tempting to, yeah, like, this person didn't really pass the case study, or this person's answer to this was like not great, but we really need someone. We really need a butt in the seat. And then all of a sudden, like, we've just been really purists about not lowering that bar for talent. At every stage, we've had to be the top 1%, right? To find product market fit, right? You've got to be in the top 1%. To to go from C to the Series A, you've got to be in the top 1%. To go from A to the B, you've got to be in the top 1%. And then you start to find yourself like, okay, now we're in the 0.0001%. Um, the companies you admire, it begins to narrow. The practices and the best practices that you deploy, um, they continue to be rare. And you have people who join the company, um, who are at risk of being like, you know, why do you guys do it this way? Every other company I've worked at does it this way. Well, we're in the top 0.0001%. And so we do it. A lot of people think that they live in their day to day and in truth, but that's really challenging. Like, how do we hold each other accountable? Like that culture of Anika, like for me, you've held me accountable on certain things, right? In terms to make sure that we seek truth, right? Like, I'll say, hey, we need to change this feature, and you'll say, no, like that, like we're remember like operational discipline.
We also have a really public culture, I would say. Like I feel like we have a lot of conversations in Slack among a lot of different people, and I think like you and Mark like both are founders and also like people that are like leading divisions. It's like everyone's really
Yeah,
receptive to feedback, and because
yeah,
the organization is structured flat, like anyone can kind of bring something up.
totally. And I love when like Mark and I get proven wrong, like on that public stage.
Yeah.
It's the best feeling. It's the best feeling ever.
And then the one other question I wanted to ask you is around like personal life sacrifices. Like, do you
Mm.
feel like you've sacrificed a lot being a founder? And have there ever been moments where you question like what you have sacrificed?
So I feel that the sacrifice has been immense. Immense. The sacrifice has been immense. I think that I try to be really self-aware to understand that sacrifice, but I don't think that I fully understand it. So I don't have an answer for you on the second part. CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen, whatever his name is,
Jensen Huang,
Zuck,
yeah.
yeah, and Zuckerberg. I mean, many of them will say like, had I known that it would have been so, difficult, I wouldn't have done it. And there's almost this part of you that has to be like smart enough to pull it off, but dumb enough to do it, right? Like
Yeah. Well, I think
being
there's
that,
also like probably a level of what other people would perceive as delusion, right? That you have to have at some
mm,
point.
totally. It like
Yeah.
really scares me when people will tell me that. Like, well, you have like you're delusional because you have to be to do what you're doing. I'm like,
That's not what I want to hear. Well, it's like you're not
yeah, that's
delusional
not what I
because
want.
but you're not delusional because it happened. But it's like everyone, like delusional is
Right.
subjective to the person saying it, right? It's delusional because it hasn't been
Right.
done. But then, like, if you do it, then it's not.
It does feel like founders tend to be of like the same breed. And each stage we get to, I meet other founders and I'm like, oh, I hate that we are so similar. Like, I hate this conversation because you're exactly like,
Are there any founders that you look up to, whether it's like founders you know, or I feel like the founder persona is so big right now.
well, I feel that I take a bit of inspiration from everyone. I think Mark Zuckerberg is low ego, like so low ego. Like the guy just copies whatever works in the market. Like you've got to be so, like, the guy's shameless, right? And there's nothing more low ego about like copying Snapchat stories from Snapchat and just building into the app, like
And now I
copying
don't even
TikTok reels.
remember that. Like I feel like when Instagram story first came to be, everyone was like, ew, gross, like there's Snapchat, who would use that? And now like I
Yeah,
don't use Snapchat and I don't even think about the Snapchat connection when I post a story.
right. And he knows that. These guys got no shame. Like it's admirable as hell. And I try to like live by that. Good artists copy, great artists steal
Yeah.
energy. And then Elon Musk, like lately, I really don't like the guy. But again, you've got to be an idiot to not admire like how he could have millions of people like just like disrespecting him on his own platform, right? He just keeps going. He just keeps like going forward. He basically ignores the like 95% of noise that he hears. There's something to learn there about like if you have a million people like screaming down your throat and you just kind of like ignore them. Like I don't know what that is, but like I've
It's
been
so
trying to
funny.
understand it.
So like for this
Yeah.
podcast, we've started posting our clips and stuff on social media and like I'm here and there, like it'll go viral
Hmm.
and you start to like get people that'll comment and it's like people only say negative things and my two co-hosts like they don't open it, they don't look at it, they don't care, they never respond. I'm like a keyboard warrior. I'm like,
Oh
wait,
my
you guys
God.
are misunderstanding. Like this isn't what we said. And they're like, take a step back and stop talking to people that are like I don't know, like be like their profile picture is like a black screen, like they're not a real
Yeah.
person. Like,
No, I
what are
know.
you
Like, are they?
doing? But I feel like for me, I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
like I need my point to come across, like, or they'll be like accusing me of being like, I don't know, like super right wing. And I'm like, this is such a
Yeah.
misinterpretation of like my core human beliefs. Like, I have to defend myself. And my best friend is just like, what are you doing? And I think it actually relates back to like the core of the product too, right? Because you can't, I know
Yeah.
you've held me accountable on this where I'll be like, oh, this customer said this like super negative thing, like we should change this. And you're like, people are going to say negative things. Like you can't just change what you're doing because of negative feedback.
Which is a crazy thing to say because it's just so counterintuitive. Annika, we're trying our best. Like we're trying so damn hard. And so yeah, it really hurts sometimes when like 95% of people are really happy. But when people are happy, you don't hear from them. You only hear from the 5 or 2% of people that are angry. It skews the like your feeling of like worth and like our lives are precious. Or, like your life is precious, my life is precious. Like we are dedicating our life to something and then to only be treated in a way that is like, I don't know, it just kind of hurts. And it's challenging to manage emotionally.
I do think
I don't
like
know.
the people, like our dietitians, for example, I feel like we get the
Yeah.
sweetest messages from ever. And like I know we did this thing where we like sent them plants and so many people sent like
Oh my God.
thank you notes and we started like a community for dietitians more recently as well. And I just
Yeah.
sometimes I'll like get the emails and they're so sweet. Like people are like, oh, this has like changed my life. Like I'm able to be a business owner and I never thought that I would be able to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm like, it's so nice that we have that because without, I don't know, without a channel for it, you just assume like everything's so negative. And you're like, oh, yeah, we are having amazing impact.
Okay, awesome. I have a quick speed round for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh.
okay, are you
Hot round.
ready? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Give it
if
to
you
me.
weren't a founder, what would you be?
Oh my. I love this. I think I would be an artist or
What kind of artist? Like a painter?
I think a civil organizer, like some kind of some kind of like organizer of policy or like I like boots on the ground. Like we talked about like what is the picketing? Like
Picketing.
that'd be I would be
You'd
that
have the
that's what I would be.
loudspeaker.
Yes, 100%.
I love it.
That's yes, 100%.
If you had to eat only one meal for the rest of your life, what are you picking?
One meal, rest of life. Tacos.
Okay, that's a good one. We were just
Yeah.
in Mexico for our offsite, so they're top of mind.
Yeah.
What's
It's
your
balanced. Like,
best
yeah, meat, carbs, and you can put veggies in there. It's like,
healthy, tastes
yo, yeah,
good?
so
That's a,
yummy.
it's a
Yeah.
good pick. What's your best health hack?
Ooh, health hack. Okay. This might be controversial, but I used to have like a scarcity mindset sometimes around like food must be finished, clean plate club energy. And this is very controversial, but something more important to me is actually throwing the food out, like not saving it. And that's very wasteful, but I'm gonna say that for me, I have found just like throwing the food out to be the most liberating. And I know like I'm gonna be attacked maybe for the wastefulness of that, but at the end of the day, like I am prioritizing my body and I'm not gonna be apologetic about that.
I've actually never heard that take before. Um, did you watch the him and hers Super Bowl ad at all? I know you're not a big sports person, but I was gonna ask you
I
your
didn't watch the
thoughts on
Super
it.
Bowl. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. Yeah, because I'm not a big sports person. Usually I will even just do it for watching the ads, but even this year I couldn't even get myself to do it. So what was it?
It was portraying what's happening in America with food, like the obesity epidemic and all
Mm,
those things. And then it ended in like a basically GLP-1 ad. So people were like, I was with you for the
oh.
first half. And then it almost looked like a Fay ad in the first half. I don't know. It was in our Slack at some point. I don't know if you saw it.
No, I did not see it. But I do admire the founding team there and the executive team there a ton. are you saying it was controversial because they were like co-opting this idea of like food, but then they were like,
I
well, just
think
take a
it's
GLP-1?
no, I was just gonna say, I feel like there's this whole controversy around GLP-1s where it's like helping so many people and an important thing to have, but then at the same time, like you don't want to normalize it over like getting help in natural ways if that's like something you haven't tried yet.
Yeah. Well, I have been trying to get a hold of Andrew over there for a while.
Andrew, if you're watching.
Andrew, if you're watching, and hopefully, I don't know if Andrew will be like, I'm sure he won't mind. He's a tried and true founder, so he's got thick skin. But I think for food and nutrition, the way that I've seen it, and I think the way like this reason why we just have not. Everyone keeps telling us like you should be selling GLP-1s, like it's a moneymaker. Like here's the deal. I think for food and nutrition, there's always like a trend, right? It was like Orlistat, laxative, over the counter became available for weight loss and approved in the early 2000s. We've had the Atkins diet. We've had, I mean, it's just, even beyond meat, like that whole like fake meat thing it's a whole bit. Um, and there's always going to be a trend, always going to be a hot topic. I think we obsess about ignoring that as much as possible because at the end of the day, there is no magic pill. Like Ozempic and GLP-1 have done so much for a lot of people, but it's not a miracle pill. I'm still waiting for it. And so we just try to not like follow these sort of like short-term like fads. Maybe GLP-1 is great for you, maybe it's not great for you, but at the end of the day, you're never going to be able to avoid I've tried, you can't just like plug in an IV and like I've tried, like you can't, we all have to eat.
You tried the
Um,
IVs,
yeah, I'm like, can
like
I just
the
like not?
ones like Hailey Bieber gets and like Kylie Jenner.
Yeah, I experiment heavily on my body. I mean, I can go show you. I have Hims with weight loss stuff here. I've got all I've done all the IVs. Like if there's a new, I mean, I'm, doing magnesium, like just to even talk about dog fooding, like I will subject my body.
Oh
I've been doing
yeah,
like red
you did
yeast to,
the function health thing too, right? Like the blood tests.
oh yeah, I've done life force, I've done function. I've done it all because I feel like, isn't that what they all used to do? Like the scientists in the early days, they would like
You're just
test
guinea pigging
on them.
yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I don't need to do an FDA study. Like I'll just, I'll
Use
ingest it in
yourself.
my veins.
The
Yeah.
FDA should
Let me,
come to you.
yeah, I've tested everything on myself. Is it weird if I am eating
No, no, no. It's
well?
totally fine.
Maybe that will go like isn't don't stuff like that kind of go viral? Like I think there was like one like Wall Street Journal woman whose like wig was on like weird, and then like she just went viral because everyone was like, "Why is her wig like this?" Like I don't know. Like if something's like kind of like annoying, isn't that like good for the I don't
Yeah.
know,
What snack are you eating?
Catalina Crunch? This is my new obsession. I literally have them all over the place. Obsessed with this stuff. Like cheddar one. I mean, look, it's empty. It's
I've
empty.
never had
Like
it.
I mean, just like look at this, unreal. Look at that. This stuff, this like peanut butter cups. Look at them.
They look
I
amazing.
I haven't run it past my mom yet, but like this is like the trick of like the food industry. Like the food industry is constantly tricking us. So I should really be looking like, okay, zero added sugars. Like that's a win, you know? This has zero added sugar. I
That
don't
is
know.
one.
Also, I'm not a dietitian, please. Like people also always
Do
ask
they ask you for advice? And do you
all
direct
the
them to your mom?
like, please go book an appointment. I have no like I'm not a dietitian. And the reason we're in this fucking mess is because people who are not dietitians talking on food,
I know
like just
on
stop.
TikTok, the trends on TikTok are crazy. It's like eating only a watermelon,
Yeah.
juice
Stop, Brian
cleanse, this
Johnson.
cleanse.
Stop. Who are you, Brian Johnson? Like, this is like this whole, it's kind of like the whole problem. It's a whole big issue whenever like venture capitalists get involved in healthcare. Like, Function Health is like a scam. They just like love to pump and dump like just like a trendy fad. Like, by the way, you're in the top 0.02%. And then you think the rest of the world is on board with your like longevity bullshit. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. It's just like,
They're okay, but VCs are involved with Fay too. Is that like, do you struggle with that ever? Like the different incentives between like what a VC would want to see versus like what you think is good for the company versus being in healthcare?
I mean, of course, like it makes me the classic hypocrite. At least I'm self-aware enough to know that. But I also think we've done a really good job of not finding like bozo head investors who are just like trying to chase like some dumb like uh hot thing for like a quick markup. I think like we've done a really, really, really good job of finding folks that like share in the mission and the future that we see.
I also wanted to
I
ask
don't
you
know.
about RFK. Did you tune in?
Yeah,
Because I know we were on offsite actually, I think during the confirmation. I don't know if you saw any of the clips of it or watched any of it.
I've been seeing a little bit of the RFK stuff. Let me first start by saying like I am like I like to think of myself as like such a like purist, independent individual, and so like I don't know, the Democratic Party has done some very suspect stuff, and the Republican Party, of course, has done like extremely suspect stuff. And so, like when RFK says things, I'm like, I mean, part of that was so stupid, but also I'm like, well, part of that was, maybe he's like, maybe he's like, oh, I'm like struggling for truth as well. Like we're all just, it's like the classic, like they like let's seek truth. And I think even like this word like truth has gotten co-opted potentially by the Trump. But like so for RFK, like I mean, he says a lot of this stuff about food and nutrition on its importance, and I'm like, hell yeah, like let's go, boy. And then who knows? Like he may like shit on the traditional like nutrition based stuff that we know to be, like true and reliable about balance, but also like the FDA is fucked, right? Like the F and they say the F and FDA is like silent because there's like and I believe that. I don't know if they're doing much over there. I mean, we'd love to help them if we possibly can. And so you just like never really know because I don't know, like I don't by the way, I love the authenticity of like RFK, right? Because I think again, this goes back to the United Healthcare CEO getting shot and like everyone's celebrating. And it's like, well, first and foremost, you should understand why. Like
Did that
you're an
surprise
idiot
you?
with
Like were you
with
like were you surprised to see the reaction or was it like what you expected when the United Healthcare CEO got shot?
I was very surprised for the reaction,
Me
of
too,
course.
yeah.
But it's like the whole thing where like when the people are loving what RFK is saying, or when the people are loving when the Healthcare CEO is getting shot, you can either like continue to be an idiot and just sort of like not choose to not understand because you're like, oh, this is so repulsive. Like, how could I even, like, how can we allow the Overton window to be here? I'm like, well, the Overton window is here because people have been desperate for authenticity for so long. Like, and so I think like that's the thing. People are so desperate for authenticity is you could have someone like RFK shooting from the hip, but it's just, and it's like 50% of it's wrong, but it's just so authentic that people are so desperate for it. And so why don't we stop being idiots and just like understand that people are craving authenticity, that people are craving like realness.
No, that totally makes sense. Thank you so much for joining today. And then for people that don't know Faye prior to this podcast, where can they either see a dietitian or apply to join? What are we hiring for?
Oh, we are hiring for everything. I think engineering and operations and design tend to be our core things that we're hiring for. You can go to phaynutrition.com. Even enter your insurance information and see if it's covered. But also we have the, careers link for folks who are looking to get on a rocket ship, looking to, we're out here trying to change the world. I mean, I know that that language has been co-opted, right? We just got out of like, I think, the last 10 years, everyone was like sold a dream about startups. Unfortunately for us, like that is how we think about it too. So it's up to you to either, uh, call bullshit and we're just like selling Kool-Aid or or fall in love with what we're building. But we're excited to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sammy.
Thank you for having me. Bye.